Welcome to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, a three-part journey through the book's core. Part 1, Summary. In the opening chapters of The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown invites us into a journey of raw, unflinching self-discovery, delivered with the warmth of a trusted friend and the precision of a seasoned researcher. This is not a book of lofty promises or quick fixes. It is a call to embrace the messy, beautiful truth of who we are, imperfections and all. With her signature blend of vulnerability and wisdom, Brown sets the stage for a transformative exploration of what it means to live a wholehearted life, one rooted in courage, compassion, and connection. Part 1 of this three-part summary captures the foundation of her message, laying bare the heart of her philosophy and the first steps toward embracing our imperfect selves. The courage to be wholehearted. Brown begins with a simple, yet seismic idea. To live wholeheartedly is to show up fully as ourselves, without armor or pretense. It's about choosing authenticity over perfection, vulnerability over control. She introduces the concept of wholehearted living as a practice, not a destination, a daily commitment to lean into discomfort, to feel deeply, and to risk being seen. This, she argues, is where true courage lies, not in grand heroics, but in the quiet, trembling moments when we dare to be real. Drawing from her extensive research on shame and vulnerability, Brown shares stories from her own life and those of her study participants. These narratives pulse with humanity. Parents grappling with self-doubt, professionals hiding their struggles behind polished facades, and everyday people yearning to feel enough. Through these stories, she unveils a universal truth. We all wrestle with shame, that gnawing fear that we are somehow flawed, unworthy, or not enough. Yet, she insists, this shame does not have to define us. By naming it, by bringing it into the light, we begin to loosen its grip. The first gift of imperfection, Brown suggests, is the courage to embrace our vulnerabilities. She defines vulnerability not as weakness, but as the birthplace of love, belonging, and creativity. It's the willingness to say, I'm struggling, or I don't know, or I need help. This courage is the foundation of wholehearted living. And Brown doesn't shy away from its challenges. She acknowledges the discomfort, the fear of judgment, the instinct to hide. But she also promises that on the other side of that discomfort lies freedom, a life unburdened by the need to be perfect, letting go of who we think we should be. A central theme in Part 1 is the liberation that comes from releasing the expectations we carry, those relentless shoulds that dictate how we think we ought to live, look, or feel. Brown challenges us to question the scripts we've inherited from society, family, or even ourselves. You should be thinner, smarter, more successful, more productive, the world whispers. But these demands, she argues, keep us trapped in a cycle of striving and self-criticism, always chasing an unattainable ideal. Instead, Brown urges us to embrace who we are, not who we think we should be. This shift requires us to confront the myths of perfectionism, the belief that if we just work harder, achieve more, or polish our edges, we'll finally feel worthy. Perfectionism, she explains, is not about self-improvement. It's about fear. It's a shield we wield to protect ourselves from criticism or failure, but it comes at a cost. It disconnects us from others, from joy, and from the messy, glorious reality of being human. Through vivid anecdotes, Brown illustrates the exhaustion of this chase. She tells of a woman who spent years perfecting her appearance, only to realize she was hiding her true self from those she loved. Another story introduces a man who buried his dreams under the weight of societal expectations, only to find that authenticity brought him back to life. These stories are not mere anecdotes. They are mirrors, reflecting our own struggles and inviting us to ask, what would it feel like to let go, to stop performing and start living? The power of self-compassion. The third cornerstone of Part 1 is self-compassion, a practice Brown presents as both a lifeline and a revolution. In a world that often equates self-worth with achievement, self-compassion feels radical. It's the act of treating ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer a dear friend in their moment of struggle. Brown breaks it down into 3 elements: self-kindness, being gentle with ourselves; common humanity, recognizing that we're not alone in our struggles; and mindfulness, observing our emotions without being swept away by them. She shares a personal story of her own battle with self-criticism, recounting a moment when she caught herself spiraling into shame after a parenting misstep. Instead of succumbing to the familiar voice of "you're a terrible mother," she chose to pause, breathe, and offer herself grace. This small act, she explains, is a rebellion against the culture of self-punishment. It's a refusal to let shame write the story of our lives. Brown's research underscores the transformative power of self-compassion. Participants who practiced it reported greater resilience, less anxiety, and deeper connections with others. By contrast, those caught in cycles of self-criticism struggled to find peace or build meaningful relationships. Self-compassion, Brown argues, is not self-indulgence. It's a discipline, a muscle we strengthen with practice. It's the courage to say, "I am enough," even when I fall short. Setting the stage for transformation. As Part 1 draws to a close, Brown leaves us with a sense of possibility. Wholehearted living, she promises, is within reach, not through perfection, but through the messy, courageous work of showing up as we are. She introduces the 10 guideposts of wholehearted living, which will unfold in the rest of the book, each one a tool for navigating the challenges of vulnerability, shame, and self-doubt. These guideposts, ranging from cultivating authenticity to letting go of comparison, offer a roadmap for the journey ahead. What makes Brown's writing so compelling is her ability to weave research with heart. She doesn't just tell us what to do. She shows us, through stories and science, why it matters. Her voice is both a rallying cry and a gentle hand on the shoulder, urging us to keep going, to keep daring, to keep believing in our own worth. Part 1 is not just an introduction. It's an invitation to step into a new way of being, one where imperfection is not a flaw, but a gift. As we move into Parts 2 and 3, Brown will dive deeper into the practical tools and guideposts for living wholeheartedly. But here, in these opening chapters, she plants the seeds of hope and courage, reminding us that the journey to embrace our imperfections is not a solitary one. It's a shared human endeavor, one that connects us to each other and to the truth of who we are meant to be. Part 2 Summary. In the heart of The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown builds on the foundation laid in Part 1, guiding us deeper into the practice of wholehearted living. With her trademark blend of storytelling, research, and raw honesty, she unpacks the next steps of the journey, focusing on the guideposts that shape a life of courage, compassion, and connection. Part 2 of this 3-part summary dives into the practical tools and mindset shifts Brown offers, delivered with the energy of a master storyteller who knows how to hold a reader's heart and attention. Here, we explore the guideposts that challenge us to cultivate authenticity, resilience, and joy while letting go of the barriers that keep us from living fully as ourselves. Cultivating authenticity, letting go of what people think. Brown opens this section with a powerful call to authenticity, the act of choosing to be true to ourselves, even when it feels risky. Authenticity, she explains, is not a trait we either have or lack. It's a practice, a daily choice to show up as we are, unfiltered and unapologetic. But this choice comes with a formidable obstacle: the fear of what others think. Brown names this fear as one of the greatest barriers to wholehearted living, a weight that keeps us performing, pleasing, and perfecting instead of being. Through vivid stories, she illustrates the cost of living for others' approval. One participant in her research shared how she spent years shaping her career and appearance to fit others' expectations, only to feel empty and disconnected. Brown contrasts this with moments of breakthrough, times when people chose to speak their truth, share their struggles, or say no to demands that didn't align with their values. These acts of courage, she argues, are the essence of authenticity. They require us to let go of the need for approval and embrace the vulnerability of being seen. Brown offers practical strategies for cultivating authenticity, such as setting boundaries and practicing self-awareness. She encourages us to pause and ask, is this choice true to who I am, or am I doing it to be liked? Her voice is both gentle and fierce, reminding us that authenticity doesn't mean being reckless or unkind. It means honoring our own truth while respecting others. The reward, she promises, is a life of freedom and connection, where we can build relationships rooted in who we truly are. Building resilience. Letting go of numbing and powerlessness. The next guidepost Brown explores is resilience, the ability to bounce back from life's inevitable setbacks. But resilience, she clarifies, isn't about toughing it out or pretending everything is fine. It's about feeling our emotions fully, even the painful ones, and choosing to move forward with courage. This requires us to let go of numbing, a habit many of us use to dull discomfort, whether through food, alcohol, work, or endless scrolling. Brown's research reveals a stark truth. Numbing pain also numbs joy. When we shut down our capacity to feel, we lose access to the full spectrum of human experience. She shares a story of a man who turned to overwork to avoid grief, only to realize he was also missing out on moments of love and laughter with his family. This insight hits hard, and Brown doesn't shy away from its implications. She challenges us to face our discomfort head-on, to sit with it, to let it teach us. To build resilience, Brown introduces the concept of dig deep, a framework for facing challenges with deliberate effort, inspired action, and getting going. This means choosing intentional responses over reactive ones, finding purpose in our actions, and taking small, consistent steps forward. She emphasizes the importance of hope, not as a wishful feeling, but as a disciplined practice of setting goals, persisting through obstacles, and believing in our own agency. By letting go of powerlessness, we reclaim our ability to shape our lives, even in the face of hardship. Embracing joy and gratitude, letting go of scarcity and fear of the dark. Perhaps the most stirring section of Part 2 is Brown's exploration of joy and gratitude, which she presents as inseparable partners in wholehearted living. In a culture obsessed with scarcity, never enough time, money, or success, joy can feel elusive, even dangerous. Brown introduces the concept of foreboding joy, that instinct to brace for the worst just when things feel good. She confesses her own struggles with this, recalling moments when she'd catch herself worrying about losing her happiness, as if joy were too fragile to trust. Through her research, Brown uncovers a powerful antidote: gratitude. Participants who practice gratitude, whether through journaling, prayer, or simply pausing to savor small moments, reported greater joy and resilience. Gratitude, she explains, shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, grounding us in the present. She shares a moving story of a woman who, after surviving a health scare, began writing daily gratitude lists, transforming her outlook on life. This practice, Brown argues, is not about ignoring pain, but about choosing to find light, even in the dark. To cultivate joy, Brown encourages us to lean into small, ordinary moments, laughter with friends, a quiet morning coffee, the warmth of a loved one's hug. These moments, she insists, are the building blocks of a joyful life. She also challenges us to let go of the fear that joy won't last. By practicing gratitude, we learn to trust in the goodness of life, even when it feels fleeting. The Path Forward, Part 2 of The Gifts of Imperfection, is a masterclass in balancing vulnerability with action. Brown doesn't just inspire us to feel differently, she equips us with tools to live differently. Her guideposts for authenticity, resilience, and joy are not abstract ideals, but practical, actionable steps, grounded in her research and brought to life through stories that resonate with universal truths. She writes with the urgency of someone who knows the stakes. Living wholeheartedly is not just a nice idea. It's a lifeline in a world that often pulls us toward shame and disconnection. As we move toward Part 3, Brown sets the stage for the final guideposts, which will delve deeper into creativity, play, and the courage to rest in a culture that glorifies hustle. Her message in Part 2 is clear. Wholehearted living is a rebellion against the forces that tell us we're not enough. It's a commitment to show up, feel deeply, and choose ourselves, even when it's hard. With every page, Brown's voice grows stronger, urging us to keep going, to keep daring, to keep believing that our imperfections are not just acceptable, they are the very gifts that make us human. Part 3 Summary. In the final chapters of The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown brings her exploration of wholehearted living to a triumphant close, weaving together the threads of courage, compassion, and connection with a storyteller's grace and a researcher's precision. Part 3 of this three-part summary delves into the remaining guideposts that complete her vision, urging us to embrace creativity, play, rest, and the courage to stand in our own truth. Written with the energy to captivate and the clarity to inspire, Brown's words pulse with a call to live boldly, not by chasing perfection, but by celebrating the imperfect beauty of who we are. This final act is both a culmination and a beginning, a roadmap for a life that dares to be wholehearted. Cultivating creativity, letting go of comparison. Brown opens Part 3 with a passionate defense of creativity, naming it as essential to wholehearted living. Creativity, she argues, is not a luxury or a talent reserved for the artistic. It's a universal human need to express, imagine, and create. Yet, she observes, many of us stifle this impulse, trapped by the paralyzing force of comparison. Comparison, Brown warns, is a creativity killer. A thief that whispers, "You're not as good as them," or "Why even try?" It's the voice that points to someone else's success, be it a colleague's promotion, a friend's flawless social media feed, or a stranger's masterpiece, and convinces us our efforts fall short. Through her research, Brown shares stories of people who reclaimed their creativity by letting go of comparison. One woman, a mother who always thought she wasn't creative, rediscovered joy in painting with her children, not because her work was perfect, but because it was hers. Another participant, a man who abandoned music in his youth to pursue a practical career, found healing in picking up his guitar again, playing for no one but himself. These stories are a clarion call. Creativity belongs to all of us, and it thrives when we stop measuring ourselves against others. Brown offers practical advice for cultivating creativity, such as carving out time for play, experimenting without judgment, and embracing the messiness of the creative process. She reminds us that creativity isn't about producing a masterpiece. It's about showing up and making something, anything, that reflects our unique perspective. By letting go of comparison, we free ourselves to explore, to fail, to try again, and to find joy in the act of creation itself. The power of play and rest, letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol. In one of the most countercultural guideposts, Brown champions the importance of play and rest in a world that glorifies hustle. Play, she explains, is not frivolous. It's a vital ingredient for connection, joy, and innovation. Drawing from research, she defines play as time spent without purpose, moments of laughter, silliness, or exploration that exist for their own sake. Yet, in a culture that equates busyness with worth, play is often dismissed as childish or unproductive. Brown's stories bring this truth to life. She shares the example of a couple who rekindled their relationship by scheduling play dates, simple outings like dancing or exploring a new park that reminded them of their early days together. Another participant, a high-achieving professional, found that allowing herself unstructured time to doodle or daydream sparked breakthroughs in her work. These moments of play, Brown argues, reconnect us to our humanity and to each other. Equally radical is her call to prioritize rest. In a society that wears exhaustion like a badge of honor, Brown challenges us to see rest as a courageous act of self-care. She recounts her own struggle with overwork, admitting how she once equated downtime with weakness. Through her research, she found that those who embraced rest, whether through naps, quiet evenings, or saying no to overcommitment, reported greater clarity, creativity, and resilience. Rest, she insists, is not laziness. It's a discipline that allows us to show up fully for our lives. To cultivate play and rest, Brown encourages small, intentional steps, scheduling unstructured time, turning off devices, or simply giving ourselves permission to pause. She reminds us that these practices are not indulgences but necessities, grounding us in a life of balance and joy. Finding meaningful connection, letting go of the need to perform. The final guidepost Brown explores is the cultivation of meaningful connection, which she describes as the heart of wholehearted living. Connection, she explains, is not about superficial interactions or amassing followers. It's about relationships built on authenticity, vulnerability, and mutual respect. Yet, the need to perform, to appear polished, successful, or put together, often stands in the way. Performance, Brown argues, is a mask that keeps us from being truly seen. Through her research, Brown shares stories of people who found deeper connections by letting go of the need to impress. One man, who spent years hiding his insecurities behind a facade of confidence, discovered true friendship when he opened up about his fears. A woman, exhausted by curating a perfect image for her family, found relief in sharing her struggles, only to be met with love and understanding. These stories underscore a powerful truth. Connection thrives when we dare to be real. Brown offers practical tools for fostering connection, such as practicing empathy, listening without judgment, and creating spaces where others feel safe to be themselves. She also emphasizes the importance of self-connection, knowing and honoring our own needs, values, and boundaries. By letting go of performance, we create room for relationships that are honest, supportive, and deeply fulfilling. The wholehearted revolution. As the Gifts of Imperfection draws to a close, Brown leaves us with a vision of wholehearted living as a quiet revolution. It's a rebellion against a culture that demands perfection, busyness, and conformity. It's a commitment to show up as we are, to embrace our vulnerabilities, and to build lives rooted in courage, compassion, and connection. The 10 guideposts: authenticity, self-compassion, resilience, gratitude, creativity, play, rest, intuition, meaningful work, and connection, are not a checklist, but a way of being, a practice we return to again and again. Brown's writing in these final chapters is a masterwork of heart and hope. She weaves together stories, research, and personal reflections with an energy that feels both urgent and tender, urging us to keep going even when the path feels uncertain. She reminds us that wholehearted living is not about achieving a perfect state, but about embracing the messy, beautiful reality of being human. It's about choosing ourselves, our joy, and our truth every single day. The book ends not with a neat resolution, but with an invitation to carry these guideposts into our lives, to practice them imperfectly, and to trust that our efforts matter. Brown's final words are a rallying cry. Our imperfections are not flaws to be fixed, but gifts to be celebrated. They are the threads that connect us to each other, the sparks that light the way to a life of meaning and love. 3 key insights and takeaways from the book. Embracing vulnerability as a strength. Brown redefines vulnerability as the cornerstone of courage and connection, not a weakness to be avoided. She argues that daring to be seen, imperfections and all, fosters authentic relationships and personal growth. The takeaway is to practice vulnerability by sharing our true selves, whether through honest conversations or admitting struggles, trusting that it opens the door to love, belonging, and resilience. 2. Letting go of perfectionism for authenticity. Perfectionism, Brown explains, is a shield driven by fear of shame or judgment, keeping us trapped in a cycle of never enough. The insight is that true freedom comes from letting go of who we think we should be and embracing who we are. The practical takeaway is to cultivate authenticity by setting boundaries, questioning societal expectations, and choosing actions that align with our values over external approval, practicing self-compassion and gratitude for resilience. Brown emphasizes self-compassion, treating ourselves with kindness, recognizing our shared humanity, and staying mindful of our emotions, as a powerful antidote to shame and self-criticism. Paired with gratitude, it builds resilience and joy, even in tough times. The takeaway is to integrate small, intentional practices like gratitude journaling or pausing to savor ordinary moments, which ground us in a life of meaning and connection. These insights form the core of Brown's call to wholehearted living, urging us to embrace our imperfections as gifts that lead to a richer, more courageous life. Thanks for listening to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries.